Alright, I'd like to open up with this clip right here.
But all that aside, we still have a problem, and it's a real problem. And the problem is this: women are not making it to the top of any profession anywhere in the world. The numbers tell the story quite clearly. 190 heads of state, 9 are women. Of all the people in parliament in the world, 13% are women. In the corporate sector, women at the top, C-level jobs, board seats, tops out at 15–16%. The numbers have not moved since 2002 and are going in the wrong direction.
All right, so obviously Miss Sandberg doesn't think that there are enough leaders who are women in this world. Now, obviously the gender of the person in the position is what's important to her on this one. This is her problem, I guess. Oh, by the way, if y'all don't remember, this is the same person that did this PSA here a while back.
Pushy, stubborn, pushy, stubborn, bossy.
So I'm not going to be responding to this PSA against, say, in the entirety of it, but I do want to bring up a few things. Say, use terms such as pushy, bossy, stubborn. These aren't traits that are leadership traits. Now, guy or girl, nobody likes a boss who's pushy, stubborn, or bossy. So, I'll give them a little bit of fairness there. They do have a little bit of a point when growing up. When a girl gets bossy, pushy, or stubborn, she gets told to stop being bossy or pushy or stubborn. However, when a little boy does this growing up, well, if he does it with his parents, he gets his ass busted usually. If he does it at school, on the playground, it gets his nose bloodied eventually and has to learn other ways to lead people or to get people to do their bidding. You know, you just can't go around and boss people around and expect to be a very successful leader. Now, what are some good traits for a leader to have? The first and foremost is there's got to be a common goal. Not just the person's desire to, have some self-gratification to lead, and not just accomplish an objective that solely benefits the person leading. There's got to be a common goal, whether it be running a business, whether it be, leading soldiers into combat, whether it be just getting everybody together for a block party, or, even organizing for a camping trip or a kayaking trip or something like that. You have to have a common goal. You have to have competence. A leader has to have a general knowledge about what's going on and how to accomplish this. Doesn't have to know everything, as long as he's got some subject matter experts. I should say he or she has some subject matter experts advising them, and, as long as he or she is willing to listen to the said subject matter experts, then they're good. Which brings me to the next point. A leader's got to be able to listen. A leader's got to be able to listen and determine, what the actual issue is. And the leader's got to be able to actually come up with a solution to that issue. Or to refer to somebody who can come up with a solution to the issue. A leader's got to be selfless. A leader's got to be responsible. A leader has to be able to be just. He's got to be able to do what's right for the common goal and for everybody else working for him or her. How many times have we been employed, or not even employed, but maybe in a group, and there's something wrong, and the person who's everyone looks to as a leader refuses to correct that. People stop looking to him as a leader eventually, and the group cohesion breaks down. So a leader's got to be able to make the right calls. He's got to be just. A leader has to be, how do I put this, courageous in a way. A leader's got to have the courage to do what's right. And a leader's got to be able to have the courage to separate him or herself, to set him and herself aside in order to accomplish the common goal and to look out for the well-being of, I'm going to use the word subordinates. Guys, I think this goes without saying, if you've got a boss that doesn't give a shit about you, how hard are you going to work for him? Not very hard. Alright? And you're certainly not going to want a boss with this mentality right here.
I'm not bossy. I'm the boss.
If you have to call yourself a boss, what type of boss are you really? What type of leader are you? You know what? You remind me of something I've seen before.
And in very bad taste.
I am the king. I will punish you.
Any man who must say, I am the king, is no true king.
Yeah, so obviously you can tell I had a few girlfriends that liked that show. However, on the point, I used that clip there to illustrate something. How many people would want somebody like that as their king, their leader, or their boss? Person doesn't have a goal. Person's very hateful, very self-centered, very bossy, very pushy, and very stubborn. He's also a coward, deep down inside. Just leadership material to you? Moreover, I guarantee you that kid, if you go back and look at his life, if you watch a show, you can tell that kid was pampered, hardly ever told no. Always told that he was a stand-up guy, a good guy and the king and always right. Does that make for a good leader? I mean, and I know this is an HBO television series, but I want to use this to illustrate an example. In fact, I'm actually going to use a clip in the movie, to illustrate another example of a leader.
Nah, I can't see shit.
I'm putting it on the roof. You're gonna need some help.
Cover me!
Okay, guys, we're gonna lay down some cover fire for him on 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go!
All right. So you can actually see two examples of leadership in this clip from the movie Black Hawk Down. Obviously, you have the person playing Matt Eversman. He's got to make sure that strobe gets up on the building so the CCA pilots, pilots of the OH-58 Deltas, Little Birds, can do a gun run on that target. And by the way, CCA is close combat attack, and it's a Army reference to helicopters doing gun runs. All right, and if you notice, there's a common goal. Everyone's trying to make sure everyone gets home alive at that point. You know, they've got hordes of Somali militia descending upon them. It's not just Matt Eversman with a self-centered goal. The man's looking out for the safety of his chalk that he was put in charge of. You know, he's looking out for the safety of his men. He's looking out for the safety of the pilots there. You know, and he actually puts himself out there. You know, he leads by example here. This is an excellent leadership trait. And the second example is you have the person playing the Delta Force operator. Well, the Delta Force operator in that particular instance. And he realizes that Sergeant Eversman's going to need some cover fire, you know, obviously. He doesn't have to say, I'm the leader. He doesn't have to say anything like that. He just says, hey, on the count of 3, we're giving cover fire. Now, again, this is not him having a gratifying goal of being a leader. It's not, you know, for his self-gratification or anything like this. This is them working together as a team to make sure everyone gets back home. You know? So, again, example. You know, you can see examples of competence in this particular clip. You can see examples of the fact that they're not being pushy, bossy, or stubborn with each other. They're actually working together, and that is an excellent leadership trait. You've got to be able to work with your subordinates and those above you in leadership roles. You got to know where your boundaries are. You know? You got to know, hey, you know, the Delta Force operator didn't say, okay, well, you're covering this way, you're covering that way, you're covering that way. He just said, hey, we need to get some covering fire. On the count of 3, we're going to put some covering fire down. And the men listened to him. So, there's my Hollywood example on what a good leader should be.
We also have another problem, which is that women face harder choices between professional success and personal fulfillment.
All right, everyone has to make those choices in life. Doesn't matter what gender you are. Now, maybe generally speaking, men tend to go with more of the professional development over personal fulfillment, versus women tend to maybe generally go for personal fulfillment over professional development. You know, and it's a free country. You're entitled to make your choices, but you're not entitled to a leadership role, especially when you're talking about the top roles. I mean, you've got to forego a lot of personal fulfillment to do those roles right. And the fact that Miss Sandberg kind of makes it, kind of comes off to me as saying, well, you know, we should have it both ways, makes me question her leadership abilities. That's pretty damning. That's a pretty damning statement to make. What Miss Sandberg had just made. Let that sink in a sec.
And in very bad taste.
I am the king. I will punish you.
Any man who must say, I am the king, is no true king.
And I mean, I hate to use a television show as a reference, but again, in that series, how many of those kings that were interested in more personal fulfillment turned out to be really good kings? How many leaders who were more interested in personal fulfillment really turn out to be good leaders? I'm not saying, if you're a leader, you can't occasionally have some fun or some personally fulfilling things in life, but you have to prioritize your responsibilities as a leader above those things. That's what makes a good leader. That's one of the many things that makes a good leader.
A recent study in the U.S. showed that of married senior managers, 2/3 of the married men had children, and only 1/3 of the married women had children.
All right, now you're getting into basic biology. When you're pregnant, you can't, when you're having a child, you can't always be in that office. And most mothers, after giving birth, do want to stay at home with their children after they've given birth. And again, we live in a free country. There's nothing wrong with that. However, let's take two people, Joe and Jane. Joe and Jane are equally good managers. Now Jane has to take, we'll give her 2 months off for maternity leave, whereas Joe is in the office that whole year. Well, how fair is it to promote Jane at the same rate as Joe when Joe's been there for the company the whole time while Jane has had 2 months on maternity leave? Joe's been there the 12 months for the company. Jane has not. Oh, by the way, Joe also had a pregnant wife, except he didn't get paternity leave, which in many companies it's very common to give women maternity leave when they're having children, but not to give the father much in the way of paternity leave. Maybe they get the day off, when their child's being born, or the day after that, in many cases, but they don't get the months of maternity leave or paternity leave like women would get the months of maternity leave in many cases. Again, this is basic biology here at work. This isn't a, quote, sexist society.
A couple of years ago, I was in New York, and I was pitching a deal. And I was in one of those fancy New York private equity offices you can picture. And I'm in the meeting. It's about a 3-hour meeting. And 2 hours in, there's kind of needs to be that bio break, and everyone stands up. And the partner running the meeting starts looking really embarrassed. And I realize he doesn't know where the women's room is in his office. So I start looking around for moving boxes, figuring they just moved in, but I don't see any. And so I said, "So did you just move into this office?" And he said, "No, we've been here about a year." And I said, "Are you telling me that I'm the only woman to have pitched a deal in this office in a year?" And he looked at me and he said, "Yeah, or maybe you're the only one who had to go to the bathroom." So the question is, how are we going to fix this?
Okay, so first off, if a person chooses to or not to engage in that trade, don't you think it's their option? And second, a leader, one of the key traits to being a leader is that you're a team player. So the first thing you do when you show up at your new job or at a new place you're doing a deal with is start demanding special accommodations. Well, I hate to break it to you, but that doesn't scream leadership material to me.
How do we change these numbers at the top? How do we make this different? I want to start out by saying I talk about this, about keeping women in the workforce, because I really think that's the answer. In the high-income part of our workforce, in the people who end up at the top Fortune 500 CEO jobs or the equivalent in other industries, the problem, I am convinced, is that women are dropping out. Now,
okay, well, my first question would be to this is, why are you only concerned about the high-income jobs? There are a lot of low-income jobs where men dominate the workforce, and yet I don't hear feminists such as yourself complaining about that one. I don't hear you complaining about why there's a shortage of females in the more dangerous jobs. So, I mean, why is it only the top income jobs that you're concerned about? Well, that would be my first question. My second statement I would make is you're right. A lot of women do drop out of the workforce before they make those positions. It's not an indicator of sexism in the society. It's an indicator of different life choices people make. If you're not going to stick with it, you're not going to make it to the top. Furthermore, if you have to be encouraged to stick with it, it sounds like you're the one in need of a leader. Not that you should be a leader. Just saying. Guys, motivation is another attribute that a good leader should have. A good leader should not only be able to motivate those around them, but they have to be self-motivated to do the job, to accomplish a goal, to accomplish the mission, to complete the task. And if you're talking about having to encourage other people to do that, then really what type of leaders will these people turn out to be?
people talk about this a lot, and they talk about things like flex time and mentoring and programs companies should have to train women.
Okay, so basically Miss Sandberg is a sexist pig who doesn't truly understand what it means to be a good leader. So, I'm going to give my personal recommendation for those who want to start, want a good, solid start to leadership. Get a copy of the NCO Creed. Read it. Think about it. Think how you can apply that in your life if you truly want to be a good leader. Now, I know there's other documents and publications and books out there on how to be a leader, and leadership traits, and I advise you look into those as well. But a good start is the NCO Creed, because I don't think I've seen a better creed for a leader to have. So, I will be posting that creed, a copy of the NCO Creed, in the credits for those who want to look at it and actually read it. But again, guys, I mean, leadership, it doesn't come overnight. You have to actually work at being a leader, and part of being a leader is changing how you live. My next step, being a leader, look at the Army values. Read them, understand them, try to apply them to your life too. Because they are good values. You know? Now, all this is good in theory. And that's where you got to start on that one. In practice. Now, want to take the next step to being a leader? Practice it. Get some of your friends together, organize a camping trip or a hunting trip or something, or a kayaking trip. Or, even a trip to the movies or a block party. Try doing that to gain experience as a leader. Take note on what things that you do that motivates people. Take note on the things that you did that demotivated people. Think about all the bosses, and leadership and other leadership you've had in your life. Think about what they did and said that motivated you. Think about the things that they did and said that really made you despise them and the job or being around them. Those things that they did to make you despise the job and make you not want to be around them are probably the things you don't want to do, and they probably have to do with being pushy, stubborn, or bossy. Alright, guys. That's my 2 cents on leadership here. I'll post links to the videos that I used in the comments section. Or not the comment section, but the information section. Well, for the videos I'm responding to anyway. Alright. And y'all take her easy now.